Hello folks, I was going to do a Void Talons video today, but then I got sent a hobby nightmare last night in the dead of the evening that made me laugh so hard that I felt that I just had to come on here and do an extra bonus hobby nightmare. Why not? It's the middle of the Christmas period, why don't we just jump on and get on with it? So later on, you will be seeing perhaps the greatest lore put down I have ever read on this channel. So we'll see about that when we get to it a little bit later on. Let's jump in first though, shall we? With Universe. Hello North, my name is Universe, but if you want to, you can call me Uni for short, alright? I've been watching your content for about a month now, and I really like it so far. No problem, man, good. And the stories that people have submitted. I wouldn't call this a hobby nightmare, but more or less a nightmare that the hobby helped alleviate and to eventually end. I'm 18 years old and have a semi-mild case of autism, so socially I've been a bit stunted and have been prone to severe anxiety and sensitivity to loud noises. Okay, alright, cool. I'm from and was born in Anchorage, Alaska. Since I was about 14, I have been into the lore side of Warhammer 40,000. My family and I moved to a rather violent trailer court park because we had nowhere else to go years ago. Shootings almost every night, and meth labs just down the street that nobody acknowledges, not even the police at the time, as half of them were on the take anyway. All of the loud noises, stress, and general anxiety I got from the majority of my stay there has left me a nervous wreck with no idea what to do aside from staying quiet and hiding as much as I can. And it hit especially hard during the great flux of 2020. I took online school as my immune system wasn't the best at the time, so I was online 24/7. While I was out of my online classes, I slowly grew addicted to adult material online. Okay, I'm just going to stop there for a second. I know a lot of people who went through this who were immune depressant, or people who had certain issues with going out during the pandemic. I know a lot of dudes, a lot of nerds, became semi-dependent on, shall we say, adult material online during this time. Some of which even had long-term girlfriends. They'd either have them long distance, or they couldn't see them that often because of their own needs. You know, they couldn't be risked and exposed to other people at the time. And so I know quite a few who ended up being addicted, or at least really screwed up by needing to rely on adult material to have any sort of alone time intimacy, which isn't great because it does release dopamine. It keeps you nice and sedated, is what it does. Don't look at it as a buzz. Don't look at it as a thing that you want to do from the point of view of this is going to make me feel good, right? Look at it from a point of view of sedation. That's how I look at it. You know, you're just sedating yourself. Whenever you do that, you're literally turning the man part of your brain off. You're supposed to be this guy who needs to get out there and fight. And fight and fight and fight for what you want. You're supposed to have that drive to go out there, find a job, find a woman, find purpose, find meaning, find a life. You're supposed to have that drive. All you're doing by relying on adult content and fapping yourself into oblivion is sedating yourself. And being a good little boy. Alright, that's all you're doing. Anyway. Which resulted in me getting less and less into Warhammer, and eventually I forgot about it altogether because I was too busy being a horny teenager in my bedroom. I also never exercised either because I was too tall for such a thing, as I am 6'8" and roughly 203 centimeters, so that was a horrible combination that took all of its toll later on. Yeah, 6'8" is huge. If you're in a room right now, guys, look at the nearest door that you're in. If you're in a normal room, look at your nearest door. That door is 6'6". This guy's 2 inches taller than your door. Yeah. Skipping ahead a bit for the sake of time, I had to move over to Eau Claire, Wisconsin in 2021, because my family and I couldn't afford staying in the trailer court. Imagine being in that position. You can't afford to be in a trailer park. My God. I was still addicted to adult material and didn't even realise it. But then, I rediscovered 40k whilst I was trying to look for a YouTube video to sleep to. I saw a video from Lewittin made about the history of the Space Marines and already thought it was familiar, so I watched it and got slowly back into 40k, watching lore videos from Lewittin, Weshammer, Major Kill and several other creators. Watching the Space Marines and their general lore made me look up to them kind of like an idol or something. I was aware of some issues I had had by that time, but never fully realised the extent of it. So, after we had to move again to a small city called Menomonee, I wanted to improve upon myself and be like them. Minus the xenophobia, hatred and zealotry they had, of course. I looked up to how honourable and noble they are. I was held back a year due to COVID, as I was already behind. Then, for a medical checkup, I found out I weighed approximately 430 pounds. 195 kilograms, I think it was. That's a lot. 430 pounds, even on somebody who's 6'8". You're a big guy. That's a big guy. In more ways than one. You're not fat. Do you know what I mean? But you are big. Very, very big. After I'd shown myself the harsh reality I'd given myself, I decided I needed to change because I didn't want to look like I was on the show My £600 Life. So I started working out and running. Although I was still addicted to adult material, which I soon found out after starting my workout routine. Alright? Since then, I've made significant progress in changing myself. As I ate less when I was in Eau Claire, my body naturally lost weight, and it still does now, as I eat roughly 1/3 or 1/2 of what I once did. Since then, I've seen or listened to just about every lore video under the sun of 40k. I thought it'd be best to finally get into the hobby and do something other than constant masturbation and gaming on my computer. Painting and assembling these little Space Marines was something I really wanted to do. As of now, I have a small army of Ultramarines and Tyranids from the 10th edition Ultimate Starter box set, and I couldn't be more happy. Along with 10 Assault Intercessors, I learnt the hard way that not all models are push fit. Getting into this hobby has really helped me kick off my addiction to adult videos and media. If you want to see one of the Marines I painted, here is the first one I painted ever. Alright, cool. And he gives me a fair warning about his camera. So, do you know what? For a first try, dude, I've given many starter painting sessions in my time. If somebody did that as a first try, I'd be incredibly impressed. Like, for a first Marine, that ain't bad. That ain't bad, dude. Alright, what you need to do, okay, is do forget about the gold, don't strip it down, but we need another nice coat of blue over that model. Try and avoid the recesses if you can, like the bits in between, because they're naturally dark and it looks quite nice. But we need another coat of blue over that model until we got a nice strong blue colour. Then put the metallic on. Then, if you want to, ink down the recesses with Drakenhof Nightshade, and you're pretty much done. You have the perfect looking Ultramarine model right there. You are well on your way, though. You're way above most people that are starting out doing their first models in the hobby, so well done to you. Alright? In terms of your addictions, yes, it is a killer. It is a killer. There's nothing more damaging than an addiction to adult material. It is very, very, very damaging to a man. Why? Because, let's be honest, dudes, when you actually meet a woman, a real one, you're going to be so desensitized to what's going on. Do you remember when you were a kid? I mean, most of you won't, but when I was a kid, when I was, like, first discovering women, right? It would only take the merest glance or touch, and you're off, right? You're literally... You can knock through walls with it. You know what I mean? Like, all it takes is that, and you're off. Imagine you now watching adult material for a long time, and you have a woman in front of you, and nothing happens. Because you've desensitized yourself. You've seen too much.
there are ways around that. Abstinence from adult material is one of them. It's just saying, no, I'm not doing that anymore. You know, if I do that, I'll be on my own. I won't have any material. I'm just doing it to get it out of my system and to get on with my day. That's fine. There's no problem there. But if you're watching this every single day, you are literally, quite literally, sedating yourself. That's what you're doing. You're sedating yourself and desensitizing yourself to all sorts of sensations that you should be having quite naturally when a woman is around, alright? So make sure that you knock that on the head if you're doing that every single day. Once a week, not a big deal, not a huge deal, but every single day, dude, no, you need, that is a problem. That is a serious problem, alright? So, the other thing is video games. Now this is the thing that's quite interesting to me, and that people talk about this quite a lot, where they say, you know, I'm just gaming all the time. Well, that's similar. It's a similar thing. If you're gaming all of the time, you're similarly going down a route of sedating yourself, of giving yourself cheap happiness, cheap thrills, that don't last, right? What I would do if I were you, this is how I got over that, because I did that to myself. I treated gaming as a treat, right? It is a treat. It is something that I do when I've earned a treat. I do it every day. I game every day for 2 or 3 hours, right? But I do all of my work first. I do all of my family stuff first. I get everything sorted out, and I look forward to sitting down and having my lovely gaming time to myself for 2 or 3 hours. I make sure my grandpa's okay. I make sure my family's okay. I make sure the missus is okay. I do all of the work that I need to do during the day. I give all the lessons I need to give. All that stuff, all boxed away. All my videos are recorded. All that's done. And then, in the evening, I get to sit down for 2 or 3 hours and I play video games. Now, I have had to make certain life stricture decisions to do that. I used to give all of my time to the channel, or all of my free time to the channel. I decided to stop doing that. I can't do that because I'm burning the candle at both ends. If one day I'm not in a full-time job and I can then do the channel as a full-time job, that will come back, obviously. But for the sake of my own sanity and my own mental health, you know, you've got to step away sometimes and take time for yourself. There's nothing wrong with gaming every day, okay? It's not, because it's not affecting other parts of your life. Adult material is. It's desensitizing you to women and things you should be getting your rocks off to, right? That's desensitizing you. It's taking away a lot of your testosterone, because your body is a thing. Your body doesn't know the difference between, you know, what is fake and what is real, right? So whenever you do that to yourself, your body is immediately thinking, oh great, he's mating, he's getting women, great, I don't need to give him so much testosterone, because testosterone is there to make sure you can fight off other men, and you can grow muscle mass, and be more impressive to the opposite sex, or you know, or whatever, right? That's why it's there. If you don't need it, why would your body make it? Your body's very, very clever at deciding what you don't need. Scientifically proven, guys. I've read up on this. Go on Google, go anywhere you want to go, and go to your doctor and ask them. They'll tell you, right? They will tell you. It's not good for you. You're doing it every single day ain't good for you. Doing it in general every day ain't good for you. Never mind watching adult material, right? So make sure that you treat it as a treat. Once a week, maybe, right? That's what I would do. If you're going to do that kind of thing, do it once a week. Gaming, you can do it every day, no problem, because it's not affecting other parts of your life. Treat it as a reward for your hard work that day. You get all your shit done, you go and do some guilt-free video games. Or some guilt-free hobby time. Right? That's what you do. That's what I would do anyway. Anyway, Fenrir says, alright North, how are things? Things are very well, Fenrir, thank you. I have a good one for you today about Bob. The most ridiculous 40k lore lolcow that there has ever been, ever. First, to set the scene. Our local hobby store is the setting of this nightmare. A great store full of cool people, and I enjoy it a lot. I move around quite a bit for my job, and so I experience quite a lot of other hobby areas for a few weeks at a time. If there is somewhere in the US or UK that does Warhammer in a major city, I've either been there or likely will go there before I retire. Such is the travelling involved in my job. My home base, however, was always the store that Bob frequented. Alright, before I go any further, if you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. Smack that if you want the channel to grow. We are so close to getting to 16,000 subscribers. If you can help me get there, that would be amazing. The Patreon is also down below. So if you want to buy me a pint over the Christmas period, or you want to buy me a New Year beverage, that's the place to do it, down below on Patreon. So make sure you go down there and support that if you want to help me out a little bit more. Moving on. I will say that there seems to be a Bob in every store or club to some extent. You see, Bob was really into the lore. Like, to the point that when I saw him on a train, he'd be reading a Codex or 40k novel with his headphones on, blasting out some sort of metal music, looking so intense, like he was about to bust a nut all over the pages. Nicely done, okay. Now, there is nothing wrong with being really into 40k. I mean, let's be fair, I think most of us got into the hobby due to the lore, right? Bob takes things to the extreme. It seems to me a rather large part of his self-worth and meaning in life is connected to Warhammer 40,000 and its myriad of characters and villains. This leads to some rather odd behaviours, to say the least. For example, if you are in the store and discussing lore, you had better hope that Bob is not in earshot around, like, at all. If he is, he will wander/waddle over, his leather trench coat flapping and making a sound like a flag does in the wind, and proceed to tell you how the factor of lore you are discussing would be either bested by rebuttal Guilliman, or, if it's Imperium in nature, should be subservient to him. As you can imagine, this can be a bit much at times, and has resulted in more than a few people just telling him to leave them alone. And to be fair, he always does. He does not exude autistic markers. It's part of my job to recognise them. He does seem like a normal guy who just loves the lore for the most part, but I've seen him go on some unhinged tirades about lore over the years. It's actually kind of wacky. I've known people like this. Do you know what I mean? Like, absolutely, I've known people like this over the years. Absolutely amazing. Because they're always about. They're always there. They're always with an opinion. With something to say. Anyway, I'll carry on. This story is about one of those times and another gamer of the store, Mike. A Grey Knight player. So I know you two will likely get along, but a man of culture. Mike was not the type to rile people up, and had very little edge to him. He was just a guy who didn't really suffer fools gladly. He would lose most of his games and just shrug it off. The one thing he didn't compromise on, though, was the lore. Okay. I remember me and him having a conversation about the Months of Shame, and he was so persuasive he had me, an avid Space Wolf fan, thinking that the Months of Shame were a cringe part of the lore because one Grey Knight could handily beat 3 to 5 Space Wolves in combat, let alone a Grand Master. A Grand Master would break Logan Grimnar's back without even touching him. To be fair, I am still an avid Space Wolf player, but I also think I am able to accept when someone else is right, and Mike was at that stage. I think it's because Mike will also love Space Wolves and regularly defends them in arguments of lore. He has a small force of them himself, and I took his opinion more seriously as I knew he saw both sides of the argument and came straight down the middle. I'm not saying you need to collect an army to have a full opinion of it, far from it, but seeing the other side of an argument really does help if your own argument is standing on solid ground, and it always is if you are completely comfortable to be corrected. That's a good point. That's a very good point. You can have any opinion in the world as long as you're comfortable in having your mind changed. You know, you will go into every single argument you ever have, honestly, and with utmost confidence. Because you're not there to win the argument, you're there to put forward what you think is right, you know? And if somebody changes your mind, there's nothing wrong with that. It's something that I really hate when people say about podcast presenters. And they go, oh, well, you're always changing your mind. And the podcast presenter goes, yeah, I know. Because I'm afforded more information, and it allows me to change my mind on an issue. There's nothing wrong with that. The only idiots who say things like that are tribalists. These are people who literally, you know, kind of ruining the world, guys. Kind of ruining the world, let's be honest. You're in one camp or the other. You can't have a nuanced opinion. Well, no, I can actually. I can. It's called having a brain and using it critically. Anyway, Bob was not one of these people. There was no reasoning with Bob until he came across Mike. One day, Bob comes in with his 2,000 point list of Ultramarines and brings up a discussion on 40k lore to the full store as he stands at the gaming table unpacking in front of his scheduled opponent, Mike. The two go back and forth with small talk, pleasantries and general things they like about the lore. When Bob inevitably brings up how amazing Guilliman is, Mike just shrugs and says, "Yeah, it's cool you like him, bro," before bringing Caldor Drago, a converted model, from his hobby case and adding him to his army on the table ready to fight. "Heh," crows Bob. "Well, your guy works for my guy, so that's all the power dynamic I need to know right there." Mike shrugs and winks at Bob. "Listen, Drago may work for the Imperium, but he'd body Guilliman." Ho ho! Can of worms equals opened. The battle begins, and I can see Bob is not going to let that comment go. He is seething and keeps making snide remarks to Mike as the game goes on. Every time he would kill a Grey Knight, he would aggressively hand the model back to Mike with a contemptuous, "Learn the lore, scrub." I have no idea how Mike put up with that, neither do I. Don't touch my models. Do not lean over the table and touch my models. Absolutely not. Do not do that. That's a horrible thing to do. I've said it on the channel many times. It's a horrible thing. Don't do it. Just do not do it. Alright? It's the lowest of the low. Especially not in a passive-aggressive way. You know, I don't know what's on your hands. Don't touch my property, please. Anyway. When Guilliman gets into combat with a Grey Knight Brotherhood champion and kills him, Bob goes into a tirade on how Guilliman would either kill or outright think any other Primarch. Mike stops the game immediately and says, from what I remember, so please bear with me and say this verbatim, and I quote, Mike said, "That is categorically not true. Here are some examples. Guilliman barely beats Lorgar when Lorgar was not using the warp to aid himself, so was like at half power, and that's Lorgar, one of the worst combat Primarchs. Corfeiron had Guilliman at his mercy and instead tried to convert him instead of killing him, but imagine being killed by someone who is not even a real Astartes. Corfeiron is just an old man wearing power armor, and Corfeiron actually knocks Guilliman unconscious with his warp powers too, which are a fraction of Lorgar's power. This points to Lorgar not seeing Guilliman as a threat even worthy of his full power. Several Alpha Legionaries, normal Space Marines, badly wound and almost kill Guilliman on their own with no aid from anyone else but the element of surprise, and they do this in the middle of his own palace complex. Can you see another Primarch being almost killed by normal Marines in their own house? I can't. Conrad Kurz annihilated both the Lion and Guilliman with strategy. That's two Primarchs against one. Can you imagine what Kurz does to Guilliman one-on-one? Guilliman got body slammed by Fulgrim and put into a coma. The same demonic Fulgrim that was defeated by Rogel Dawn and chased from the Siege of Terror. And Dawn is not exactly a top-tier combat Primarch. Magnus was powered down by Games Workshop to fight Guilliman, and even then, Guilliman needed help to fight him off. Magnus can summon fucking planets. Are you telling me he can't just unmake the dude at a whim? Mortarion beats the piss out of Rebuttal Guilliman. This is the same Mortarion who is in turn beaten to a pulp by Caldor Drago, who was not even at the apex of his power yet. In fact, Mortarion kills Guilliman. He wins before the Emperor brings Guilliman back. If Drago beats Mortarion, what do you think he does to your Guilliman one-on-one? Unquote. Wow. Just reading that back, I read that last night and I was like, my toes were curling up. I was like, oh my god, imagine being on the receiving end of an evisceration of this magnitude. This guy came with receipts. He came with all the receipts. This like, in fact, no, you're wrong. And here's 9 reasons why. Like, annotated and all there, all ready for you, you know. Absolutely. I'm surprised this guy didn't have fucking page numbers, dude. This is incredible. Oh my god. The one that stands out to me is the Alpha Legionaries. I know when that happened in Unremembered Empire, didn't it? Were they Alpha Legionaries or Word Bearers? I can't remember. But they'd infiltrated Ultramar. They'd infiltrated Macragge, I think it was. And they went into Guilliman's palace and essentially nearly killed him. And so, yeah, that really doesn't say that Guilliman's very good at tactics or surveillance or ruling anywhere in particular. If some dudes like that can just rock up and nearly kill him, I'm thinking that they were word bearers, but they have to have been Alpha Legionaries to get that close to him. You know what I mean? But if they weren't, and I'm right, and they were word bearers, that's even more embarrassing. Because guys who aren't even very good at stealth got into nearly killing Rebuttal Guilliman. The second one is the Mortarian one. You know, that's an incredible put down. That you could have just said that and won the entire argument, to be honest with you. You know, Mortarian beats Guilliman, Drago beats Mortarian. That's all you needed to say. Anyway, I'll carry on. We all sat there, kind of stunned. This was the most savage law put down I think I've ever witnessed. Bob's fists were balled up and he was shaking, red in the face. He said, But the Drago thing, he said, was all Matt fucking Ward. Mike held up a hand to stop him. And I quote, he said, if I remember correctly, Matt Ward gave the Ultramarines far more love than the Grey Knights. I will take criticism about the Grey Knights being overpowered in the lore from many people, good sir, but not you. As a Guilliman simp, you are not one of the people I will take reproach from. Unquote. Bob just snapped, and to be fair, Mike was being a bit... What's that word? You spelt it wrong there. I'm going to say highfalutin, right? Mike was being a bit arrogant in the way he was talking. Bob just snapped completely, although Mike was being a bit arrogant. Bob picked up a reporter tank, one of his own, and hurled it full force across the table, and as Mike was finishing speaking and smiling at him, it slammed into his forehead, sending him stumbling back like he'd taken a headshot from a .50 caliber rifle. There was uproar. We all jumped up and restrained Bob, who was moving to walk around the table, pushing him back and eventually out of the store, where the owner told him to piss off home. A few of the lads helped Mike stand back up, who had a nasty dent in his forehead that was rising to be a rather angry lump. Aside from that, he was fine. We picked up Bob's models and sent them out to him, where the manager told him he was banned indefinitely until he got some help with his anger. A bad end to the day all round that went from 0 to 100 very quickly. Bob never came back, but did and does frequent another store in the local area, and he is a lot calmer after university. Go figure. He probably got laid, dude. He probably got laid. Mike is still in the store, and the urban legend is repeated to him a lot in earshot, to which he tends to chuckle and just get on with his day. Sigh, this hobby sometimes. Much love, Fenrir. Thank you very much for that, man. I was sitting there last night just absolutely chuckling my face off last night. It was so funny. But yeah, I couldn't resist doing that today. I was going to do Void Talons today, but I could not resist doing that as a hobby nightmare. I just think it was amazing. One of the best ones I've read in a while. And that put down, I mean, just fact after fact after fact. There's nothing more devastating than truth just being dropped on somebody from orbit. Just like, okay, here you go. Here's how you're wrong in the 19 different ways that I know you are wrong. Amazing stuff. Anyway, I love you a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for yet more Hobby Nightmares. Tomorrow should be a doozy. I'll speak to you then. Have a good one. Bye now.